Hey, peace, everyone. Thanks for being here. One idea, lid.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty. Now I recognize royalty, royalty's eyes, royalty. I can see, recognize royalty, I can love, recognize royalty. Now I recognize it. Royalty, royalty. I recognize passion. Never just a man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just a man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sense. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty.
Yeah, all right. Welcome to episode 3. We're back at it. We're hailing disco today. I'm sorry. Yesterday, the last episode was hailing disco. Today we are actually partying with the black spades. Today we're partying with the spades. Last show, when the reason we held disco is because we learned that disco is short for discotheque, which is a French word. Disco is actually a French word, and in the debate of who owns disco, at least, I think we're trying to make the argument that disco is white people stuff as well, and I think the fact that it's a French word, is strong evidence, and the fact that also discotheques started in France, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere in Europe. And we said discotheques are, in my estimation, absolutely the foreshadowing of street parties. We said street parties are just the disco parties after they left the techs, the discotheques. Yeah. So there are strong arguments for us to say disco is white people stuff. It remained popular in Europe after it died down in the States. Another hint that it's their stuff, because they held on to it. We also learned from the last episode when we hailed disco. Part of the reason we hailed disco also was because we realized that it started out as an escape to the doom and gloom of what was going on in Europe at the time with a lot of with the Nazi stuff, and so it was seen as the dancing was seen as an escape to that. So we hailed disco, not the other guy. So today we want to talk about the street party culture that evolved from the discotheques, which we call hippity hop culture. It's only an evolution of the discotheques. I think we've learned that the gangs kind of took over the street parties by kind of closing down discotheques, if you will. Got the people outside. Gang activity, gang. They kind of terrorized discotheques. They literally did, and then after that they started having street parties. Isn't that something? that kind of is interesting. So we're gonna have a street party with the Black Spades today. We're gonna learn about the Black Spades, and how disco kind of went with hip hop. Disco went to the left, they went to the left to street party with the Spades. Did y'all get that bar? They went to the left to party with the Spades. They went to the left to party with, to the left, the left wing party. I think that's something that we're gonna learn about as well. Yeah, and that is another bar. I got bars. Disco Fever gave me sick hip hop bars, if you remember. So I got bars. Y'all can at least stay for the bars at least. But let's leave the bar and go to the party with the Spades. Look, I did it again. Leave the bar, go to the party with the Spades. Leave the bar, go to the party. That's another one. I'm too good. But seriously, let's see what we can learn from our good friend Wikipedia. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's do the wiki and see what we can see. So it says the Black Spades were a mostly African American street gang, which started in the Bronx during the late 1960s and gained popularity in the 70s. The gang began to spread from the Bronx to Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, New Rochelle, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Connecticut by the late 1980s. During this period, Latino and white members were more common. The Black Spades, during this period, Latino and white members were more common. The Black Spades have made a comeback in 2019 with more members joining. They are now TBS New Direction, a community service group championing anti-violence initiatives and providing food distribution for the food insecure. Yeah, that's interesting. I've noticed, even with the idea of gangs, terrorizing discotheques and then having the people leave the discotheques and then having parties outside. That's kind of interesting. It's the same way, like with the idea that they're now a new organization that's championing anti-violence. That's kind of interesting that they morph into groups. They kind of start street wars and then morph into a group that fights against street wars. You know what I mean? They terrorize, they get the people out of the discotheques, then throw parties outside. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, that's interesting. It's like they steal your phone, then help you look for it. Yeah, that's crazy. That's interesting though. But anyway, let's continue reading and see what else we can learn about the Black Spades. Yeah, so a little more history about the Black Spades. The gang originated in 1968 in the Bronx Dale houses in the Soundview section of the Bronx. Although rumor says they were originally named the Savage Seven, the name from the start was the Black Spades. The Black Spades officially formed in Junior High School 123 on Morrison Avenue in Soundview, originally a teenage street organization. The Spades followed the teachings of the 5% Nation, Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam, and were influenced by the Black Panthers and the Weather Underground organization. That's interesting. Under the leadership of the original president, David Brockington, who was a member of the Nation of Islam, the Spades organized to fight against the racism and bigotry in the Soundview, Glasson Point, Parkchester, Castle Hill, and Throgs Neck neighborhoods of the Bronx. The 1st Division Black Spades policed and protected Bronx jailhouses from the rise in crime, drug dealers, and heroin addicts who began to take over the community. Yeah, I guess this is kind of all making a little more sense to me now. You know, because they said they started in a junior high school, right? So these were teenagers, and so, you know, just the idea of them organizing to fight racism in their neighborhood just seemed like a lot for teenagers to be doing. It just seemed as if they were formed. Now it's kind of clear that the Black Spades was a larger organization. You know, they were a larger organization, and they had a division of, I guess, younger children, and so that's kind of how it all. So they were formed for a specific reason. These were 13-year-old kids, so it sounds as if they were being recruited to join the gangs for a very specific reason. And when you hear about, you know, who they're following, like people like, you know what I mean, the 5% Nation, Malcolm X, NOI, you can see that there sounds to be, you know, it's not just kids, it's grown-ups involved in this whole scheme, if you will. And that's interesting. You know, so they are in gangs, you know. These are kids that are in gangs, so these are badass kids, you know. But then they are in gangs that are organized to fight racism and bigotry. So, you know, they're good ass badass kids. You know, it's kind of weird. It's kind of interesting, and it's very interesting. But it's also kind of strange, you know. Yeah, but let's continue reading just a little bit more. But again, it seems as if the hippity hoppers are just a front for something bigger, a social movement bigger than them. And the hippity hoppers, I'm talking about those 13-year-old kids that were just doing their thing, you know what I mean, with the nursery rhymes, we're at the street parties, you know, doing their thing to the disco, I presume, rapping to the disco, if you will. But yeah, so that's where we are at this point. So let's just continue reading just a little bit. Let me just find where I am. All right. The gang quickly spread to nearby housing projects in the Soundview area, Monroe houses, Soundview houses, Bronx River houses, Bronx River, and throughout the Bronx, starting a subculture inviting music into the lives of gang members. The Black Spades were also participants in the Hoe Avenue peace meeting. Even that peace meeting, the fact of 13-year-old kids being involved in a Hoe Avenue peace meeting, which was, you know, a big deal in the city at the time. A lot of people were there, a lot of politicians were there, the police were there. You know, that's a big deal. So now it kind of makes sense that they are just a division, and if not a division, kind of like just kind of a subgroup within a larger organization. They seem to, right, they're the baby spades. You got the Black Spades, you got the baby spades. I think they may have had junior spades. So they're just one level. And I think the whole organization is in charge of that social movement for what hip hop is about. And you know, whatever their role is, it's centered around hip hop culture. and their role that's where their role seems to be kind of centered. Yeah, so let's just hear what else is written here. The Black Spades also included a women's division that started in the Glassing Point Housing and Junior High School IS 131. That's crazy. They were a women's division that started in the junior high school. Now, were there adults in these junior high schools recruiting? That's just so crazy. That's just interesting. But anyway, by the early 1970s, the Black Spades had increased in numbers, and members began to lose focus of their original purpose. The Black Spades and young members, young spades and baby spades, became violent, and other divisions were unrestrained. David Brockington didn't like the direction that they were headed, so he stepped down as First Division president. Afterwards, Monk became the new supreme president of the Black Spades, which became a full-fledged street gang. New York street gang activity peaked in 1973 and then began to decline. Reasons for this decline included violence and drug use, as well as a move to the burgeoning hip-hop culture in park jams, block parties, and clubs. Yeah. That's all interesting. But let's continue to read. I don't think we've read anything that's of interest at this point. But wait, maybe this will be. Afrika Bambaataa was a member in a Black Spade First Division First Chapter, then joined the Bronx River House's Black Spades 10th Division before becoming a famous hip-hop DJ. He went on to form the Universal Zulu Nation on November 12, 1973, with several members following him. I told y'all these were some badass baby kids, right? Like the kids that started it, since these are the gang member kids, these are baby kids. And it looked like Bambaataa is baby. Like, that's pretty much what this is. Hippity hoppers that are claiming hip hop are claiming Bambaataa as their father. Because it sounds as if, Afrika Bambaataa is behind the whole, recruiting these kids as part of that gang. You know what I'm saying? And doing what he's doing. Afrika Bambaataa is your father. He's the father of hip hop, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? And you can have him. You can have him as your father. Let's hope it works out better for you than for them other kids. Allegedly. But yeah, but y'all are children of Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation. That's who the hippity hoppers are. That's who y'all are. But let's read a little more. There's Kool DJ Herc. Yes. The Jamaican brethren. Bo. Are you stop? No, let me stop. Let's see. Kool DJ Herc, an early hip hop music pioneer. So this is referring to Kool Herc as a pioneer. You know what I mean? And that's good because, you know what I mean? He didn't create hip hop. Nope. That's all Bambaataa. Bebe created hip hop for his kids. So it's not Kool Herc. So it says Kool Herc, an early hip hop music pioneer, credits gangs including the Black Spades with getting the hip hop scene started. Gangs including the Black Spades, and you know what I mean. The Black Spades looks like Bambaataa was running the Black Spades. Bambaataa is your father. Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation. You know what I mean? That's who created hip hop. Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation created hip hop. You know what I mean? Excuse me, let me switch that. They took white people's music and switched it up and created hip hop. You know what I'm saying? But it's still white people stuff. You know, the same way they took white people's music and mixed it and scratched it and uh, break it or break beat it. The same way they just take people's music and do what they want with it is the same way they took white people's culture, disco culture. They took disco culture and remixed it and scratched it and broke it. You know what I mean? And created hip hop culture. But that's all it is. It's just remixed disco culture. But it's white people culture nonetheless. It's the gang version of white people culture. But it says DJ Kool Herc credits the Black Spades with getting the hip hop scene started. It started coming together as the gangs terrorizing a lot of discotheques back in the days. Man, exactly. They were terrorizing the discotheques. Makes sense. They were, you know what I mean? And I think that made people not want to go to the discotheques. And if you don't go to the discotheque, you got to party outside, maybe go to the street parties. I mean, it sounds like a plan with these gangs, man. It always sounds like a plan. You know, they terrorize the discotheques, get them out the tech so they can have street parties. You know, and it's the same thing they do with even the street wars. They create street wars, and then after that they create anti-violence movements against street wars. Like, I don't know. It sounds like a scam to me, but whatever. What do I know? Again, it says it started coming together as the gangs terrorizing a lot of known discotheques back in the days. I had respect for some of the gang members because they used to go to school with me. They were the Savage Skulls, Glory Stompers, Blue Diamonds, Black Cats, and Black Spades. Yeah, so it doesn't look like Kool Herc was one of them gangbangers. You know what I mean? Us Jamaicans, we don't be gangbanging. We don't be down with that stuff. I mean, well, okay, I'll take that back. But Kool Herc didn't mess with that stuff. He just hung out with y'all. He just hung out with y'all and brought his stuff and threw parties with y'all. But that was it. That's all we had to do with it. We don't want no more than that. All right. The organization had a strong following through the late 1990s. Around this time, many young members of the organization transitioned their membership to the Blood Street Gang in NYC. The Bloods. So the Bloods are East Coast and the Crips are West Coast. Like, you know what I mean? You can't have hip hop history without and a history about gangs without mentioning the Bloods and Crips. Bloods ran the East Coast as far as, and then the Crips are West Coast. I wonder if that has anything to do with the social movement. Maybe I'm thinking too much. What y'all think? Maybe? Who knows? So, you know, and I think also that maybe, again, I think that's probably the main reason why it's so hard to get rid of the N-word, is because, you know, the N-word belongs to hip hop culture and hip hop culture belongs to the gangs. You know, you're not going to get rid of the N-word because you're not going to get rid of the gangs. And I don't know if our community is ready to get rid of gang culture yet. We are too invested in the gang. We are gang. You know what I mean? We love everything gang. The Black community loves that. You know what I mean? And that's not just African Americans, that's Jamaicans, that's Puerto Ricans. For some reason, I don't know if it's an inner city thing, but it's gang. It's West Coast, East Coast. Our community is really engulfed in gang culture. Let's see if there's anything else of interest. In early 2022, a resurgence of Black Spades members have risen in the River Park Towers housing complex of the West Bronx. This latest incarnation of the Black Spades are a neighborhood self-policing unit that has plans to participate in homeless food drives, after-school programs at CIS 229, and other positive neighborhood development. So, you know, again, You know, they always seem to morph into positive neighborhood stuff after creating a lot of negative neighborhood stuff. But I don't know. That's another topic for another show. But yeah, just to summarize, for my hippity hoppers out there, the baby spades are just one division of or one level of the black spades. So they're just really, they're just really children with, they're pawns, if you will, in whatever the social movement of hip hop was and really is. This is a movement centered around gang culture. It's centered around drug culture, and it's centered around sexual promiscuity. And that's what disco culture was as well. Disco culture was the drug culture and the sex promiscuity. What hip hop added was just the gang culture to it. There it is. Disco is drugs and sexual promiscuity, and hip hop is just gang activity added to that. That is what is added to disco to make it hip hop. So you didn't really add music. If anything, you added gang culture to what was going on, or gang activity to the whole movement. So gang activity, drugs, promiscuity, which, right now, P. Diddy is the poster boy for. P. Diddy is hip hop. Yeah. And the history of hippity hop is the history of Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu nation. That's really, what it is. And so another question is what were they about? What was going on with Bambaataa and the Zulu nation, and the whole, just everything else? What else were they involved with in terms of the movement with creating hip hop? And we may go there next, in terms of what direction we take for this rabbit hole, as we go down in the rabbit hole and see where it takes us. Yeah. So I think we've touched on everything. Nothing else left to say at this point, other than, look out for part 4, man. Part 4 is coming. Part 4 is coming. So, you don't want to miss it. Hit the like button, please. May I beg you, hit the like button. And the subscribe. Hit subscribe right after you hit the like button. You know what I mean? And then the notification, like, it don't cost nothing. Hit the notification bell as well. It can only help. And then join my Discord server. Join the Discord server. It's the link is in the description of the video. Join the server. You get to interact with me all day. Ain't that something? Don't get no better than that. You know what I mean? Shout out to Sunchild. Sunchild is one of the main ones that is brave enough to interact with me in the Discord. So, it's me and Sunchild. Y'all can come hang out with me and Sunchild. How amazing is that? 2 for 1. You know what I mean? So join the Discord. It's a lot of fun. We get to talk all day, every day, which is amazing. And I think that's all. I think that's enough to ask of people. Did I mention Twitter? I mean X. Join my X at American Dream Guy. I'm on X, American Dream Guy. Follow me. You know what I mean? Follow me, no man. Sure. Yeah, I think that's it now. That's it. There can't be more. No, the last thing. Y'all see the Cash App, right? The Cash App is right there. American dream is alive. But you know what I mean? You gotta help keep the dream alive. Teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah, that's another bar. Teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah, man. Word up. American dream is alive. Hit the Cash App. That's what's up. It would be highly appreciated. You know what I mean? Word up. Y'all are the best for being here, man. It's amazing to to be doing this. So once again, catch y'all on the next one. Until next time, peace out.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, now I recognize royalty, royalty inside, royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, I can love, recognize royalty, now I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work, working with the man? Oh, it's the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world. I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop on things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I'm reeling men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews, crucifixion, and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix of some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back above me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too. I can feel you. I feel it. I can see you. I can see it. I recognize now your royalty. I see it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Royalty.
Hey, peace, everyone. Thanks for being here. One idea, lid.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, now I recognize royalty, royalty, I can see. Recognize royalty. Recognize royalty. I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter and demand, with the lecture and the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the brand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest of prizes, no sense. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty.
Yeah, blessings. Once again, welcome to part 4 of our saga. So far we've learned that hip hop is white people stuff. Hip hop is white people stuff. And mainly because of disco. And hip hop's connection to disco kind of reveals exactly who is hip hop's creator. We said disco is a French term. Discotheques were invented in France, and street partying is kind of an offspring of the discotheque, which was imported to the U.S. So because of disco and because of gangs, hip hop is added gang culture to disco. The Black Spades actually copied white gangs as well. They actually dressed in the way white gangs dressed, they actually wore jackets with swastikas on it. Now, not to say that they agreed with Nazi ideology, but they did it just as a way to intimidate people. But regardless of that, I think a lot of the white gangs did it for the same reason, as an intimidation factor. So, the fact that we have the black gangs dressing like the white gangs, I think we can easily say gang culture, especially the black street gang culture, is copying the white street gang culture, if you will. And so if we look at it from the aspect of disco or gangs, it in terms of hip hop, it goes back to white folks. Africans, we roll in tribes. Africans roll in tribes, not gangs. Gangs is white people stuff. So hip hop is white people stuff. Similar to the music, we said they just took disco and R&B songs and made a new genre by cutting and scratching music that already existed. And it's the same thing with the culture. We just remixed disco culture. We remixed disco music, called it hip hop music, and we remixed disco culture and called it hip hop culture. But that's really all it is. It's just drugs, sex, and gang. That's what hip hop is. It's and again, it's just an evolution of disco culture. And so, from the last video, after we partied with the Spades, we discovered that Afrika Bambaataa is the father of the hippity hoppers. Afrika Bambaataa is your father. And we said P. Diddy is hip hop. P. Diddy is a good representation of hip hop today, with the sex, the promiscuity, and the gang. I don't know about the gang stuff too much, but I'm going to go out on a limb and assume there's some of that in there as well. And then there's the idea of LGBTQ in the hip hop movement. You know, we said hip hop moved to the left, to the left. So when they move to the left, you know, I think that social movement of hip hop is there an LGBTQ agenda in there as well? Because with the birth of it from Bambaataa and his the allegations against him with young boys, with young hippity hoppers, I guess. And then with P. Diddy and everything going on with him, you just wonder, we learned that, the gay population had a role in creation of disco. And so, I think that it's also quite prevalent in hip hop. So the father of hip hop culture is disco culture. And Afrika Bambaataa is the father of the hippity hoppers. And Zulu Nation as well. Afrika Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation is the creator of hip hop. And so, for that reason, today's video, today's lesson is what's today's mathematics? What's the mathematics, son? And I'm gonna say today's mathematics is knowledge. Or it could be wisdom. It may be understanding. I'm not quite fully sure. But I'm gonna say it's knowledge. Today's mathematics is knowledge, because the fifth element of hip hop is knowledge. And today, we're gonna talk about the fifth element of hip hop, the knowledge around hip hop, and kind of learn a little bit more about it, and maybe see if Black people really did create hip hop or not. Maybe just in terms of the fifth element of knowledge. Let's see where that takes us. So that's our goal for today. Let's see how this goes. All right. So as usual, we're gonna wiki and see what we can see. We read about the black spades yesterday, and from that reading, we learned about the fact that the spades follow the teachings of the 5% Nation, Malcolm X, and the Nation of Islam. So today we're going to talk about those teachings and see exactly what the spades were being taught. Because as someone that grew up in the Bronx, the idea of the 5% knowledge, the God bodies, the nation of gods and earths, having ciphers, that idea of having ciphers, that's real to me, and that was a part of even my own experience at a point in my life. So this is all real stuff to me, and so let's just kind of dive into it and just say it's a real part of hip hop culture. This idea of the knowledge aspect of the culture is a real deep and even foundational part of the culture. So it should not be ignored. So let's go into, so the first ones we're going to talk about is the 5% Nation. So let's see what it says about them, if we can. It says the 5% Nation, sometimes referred to as the Nation of Gods and Earths, or the 5%ers, is an Afro-American nationalist movement influenced by the Nation of Islam that was founded in 1964 in the Harlem section of the borough of Manhattan, New York City, by Clarence 13X, who was previously known as Clarence Edward X. Let's see who Clarence X is. Let's read about him a little bit. It says Clarence 13X, also known as Allah the Father. Wow, that's a name, boy. Um, Clarence 13X, also known as Allah the Father, was an American religious leader and founder of the 5% Nation, sometimes referred to as the Nation of Gods and Earths. He was born in Virginia and moved to New York City as a young man before serving in the United States Army during the Korean War. Well, thank you for your service, sir. After returning to New York, he learned that his wife had joined the Nation of Islam. So it's the Nation of Islam seems to be the center of kind of all of the knowledge that the fifth element is made up of. So he followed his wife, taking the name Clarence 13X. He served in the group as a security officer, martial arts instructor, and student minister before leaving for an unclear reason in 1963. So there was a lot going on in the NOI. They were doing a lot of stuff. He was into martial arts instructor and student minister. So this seems, NOI seems like it was, and I don't know, may still be kind of, or really, they got a lot going on. He enjoyed gambling, which was condemned by the NOI, and disagreed with their teachings that Wallace Fard Muhammad was a divine messenger. After leaving the NOI, Clarence 13X formed a new group with other former members. He concluded that all Black men were divine and took the name Allah to symbolize this status. He rejected the belief in an invisible God, teaching that God could be within each Black man. In his view, women were earths that complemented and nurtured men. He and a few assistants retained some NOI teachings and pioneered novel interpretations of them. They ascribed teachings to the meaning of letters and numerals. Understanding the meaning of each letter and number was said to provide deep truths about God and the universe. Yeah. What's today's mathematics, son? I think each day the day of the month, like that, those numbers, each number represents something, a different mathematics, if you will, or a different learning, or teaching. And so it was numerology, for lack of a better word. And all of this stuff, like I think I've mentioned before, is pseudo knowledge. It's pretty pseudo stuff. Like this is a numerology cult, for lack of a better word. So Clarence 13X referred to his new movement as the 5%ers, referencing a NOI teaching that only 5% of the population knew and promoted the truth about God. One way that he distinguished this group from his previous faith was by rejecting dress codes or strict behavioral guidelines. He allowed the consumption of alcohol and at times the use of illegal drugs. Wow. Allah himself allowed the use of alcohol and drugs. So why wouldn't hip hop be, rampant with drug use and alcohol? Allah allows it. Like that's interesting. In 1964, Clarence 13X was shot by an unknown assailant, but survived the attack. He is Allah. He's supposed to survive. Am I right? After an incident several months later in which he and several of his followers vandalized stores and fought with police, he was arrested and placed in psychiatric vandalizing stores and fighting with police. That's no way for Allah to behave. That's just crazy. That's un-Allah like. Um, After he was arrested and placed in psychiatric care. It sounds right. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. He referred to himself as Allah, which had become his preferred name. He was released from custody after a 1966 ruling by the Supreme Court placed limits on confinement without trial. Although he initially taught his followers to hate white people, he eventually began to cooperate with white city leaders. Yeah, I guess teaching to be okay with whites is an eventual thing, but he was teaching to hate white people. And I think that kind of goes along perfectly with hip hop culture. You know what I'm saying? The fact that yeah, there's just a lot of hate for white people everywhere nowadays. So it says, although he initially taught his followers to hate white people, he eventually began to cooperate with white city leaders. They gave him funding for a night school, and in return, he tried to prevent violence in Harlem. In June 19, this is the same guy that was vandalizing stuff, remember, and fighting with police. In June 1969, Clarence 13X was fatally shot. Oh, okay, so he wasn't really Allah. The identity of his killer is unknown. The mayor of New York City and several other prominent leaders expressed condolences to his followers. Although the 5%ers faltered in the immediate aftermath of his death, the movement rebounded after new leadership emerged. The group took a new hierarchical approach to leadership, and no single leader replaced Clarence 13X. He has been held in high regard by 5%ers who celebrate his birthday as a holiday. Yeah, and you know, I think this kind of makes sense as to why FBA has chosen Lord Jamar as one of their leaders. I think Lord Jamar is a 5%er. Someone can correct me, but I'm pretty sure Lord Jamar is a 5%er. And so, you know, yeah, the fifth element seems quite pseudo-ish right now. But let's, I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about with the 5%ers. The next person was Malcolm X. I don't think I need to say anything about Malcolm X. Everybody knows Malcolm X. Malcolm X is the standard of manhood in the Black community and in hip hop culture in particular. Malcolm X is the man. You know what I mean? It's Malcolm. Malcolm is him. And so I don't know how much I'm going to read about Malcolm, but I am going to read a little bit for those who don't know. Malcolm X, born Malcolm Little, later El-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, was an African-American revolutionary, Muslim minister, and human rights activist who was a prominent figure during the civil rights movement until his assassination in 1965. Spokesman for the NOI until 1964. He was a vocal advocate for Black empowerment and the promotion of Islam within the African American community. Yeah. Once he went to jail, it was actually in jail that he encountered the NOI and joined the NOI. You know, and he got it to jail from his prison activity. I wonder if Malcolm was in the Black Spades. Was Malcolm in the Black Spades? That's interesting. I know he was familiar with the Black Spades. But yeah, there's always that connection. If you're in the NOI, you're connected. You're gang. Okay, so it says he was a controversial figure accused of preaching violence Malcolm X is also a widely celebrated figure within African American and Muslim communities for his pursuit of racial justice. And it kind of goes into just the history of Malcolm, and I think we pretty much know about that. Malcolm, like the 5% Nation and like the Nation of Islam, he too was a separatist, and he wanted Black people to separate and have their own thing happening. He was against Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King's civil rights movement. And given the fact that Malcolm had some immigrant background, the fact that he was going against Martin Luther King kind of makes that kind of tether-like behavior, does it not? Yeah, I don't understand how FBA's standard is kind of relaying such tether-like behavior. But that's beyond the point. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to read about Malcolm X. I think the main thing here is that he is integral to the fifth element of hip hop, and he is one of those. He's one of those people that is really respected in the culture. So last but not least is the Nation of Islam. Let's just talk about the Nation of Islam a little bit. It says the Nation of Islam is a religious organization founded in the United States by Wallace Fard Muhammad. Yeah, by Wallace Fard Muhammad in 1930. Maybe we should look into Wallace Fard Muhammad, see what he was about a little bit. Wallace Fard Muhammad, among other names, was the founder of the Nation of Islam. It says he arrived in Detroit in 1930 with an ambiguous background and several aliases, and proselytized syncretic Islamic teachings to the city's Black population. His group taught followers to abandon old slave names in favor of new names that were bestowed on new members. Fard's movements similarly taught Black pride and Black exceptionalism, saying that the Black man is the original man, and teaching that the white race were devils created by eugenics. The group preached abstinence from drugs, alcohol, pork, and out-of-wedlock sex. Yeah, the Black man is the original man. I think that's also one of the teachings of the 5%ers. The Black man they are the gods of the universe. They actually created civilization, so I think here we can kind of see the beginnings perhaps of why Black Americans take credit for everything. You know what I mean? They are the ancient Egyptians. They are the Abos. They're the Moors, and why wouldn't they be? They created civilization. They're the mothers and fathers of civilization. So, it's not surprising that this is the heart of the knowledge of their learning. We was more than Kangs. We was more than Kangs. We was gods and earths. We're a powerful people. Yeah, but I digress again. let me read a little more about Fard Mohammed. Let me read a little more about him. Um, so the group preached abstinence from drugs, alcohol, pork, and out of wedlock sex. So, at least he didn't promote drugs and alcohol. Good for him. Good for you, Fard. Um, After one of Fard's followers, clearly psychotic, performed a human sacrifice. Ooh, okay, human sacrifice was happening. Yeah, but he was clearly psychotic. Yeah, let's roll with that. Fard was briefly arrested. Fard was set free, but he was ordered by police to depart Detroit and not return. Wow, get out. Like, even though this guy was psychotic, it looks like they said Fard, was kind of, I don't know, they kicked him out. They felt he was responsible somehow. You know what I mean? Um, but they said to get out and don't come back. But instead, he continued to return to the city, where he was spotted by police in 1934 after repeated arrests and death threats. Fard left Detroit and ultimately disappeared. Elijah Muhammad succeeded Fard as leader of the NOI. Fard's teachings, in turn, influenced many, including Malcolm X, Clarence 13X, boxing legend Muhammad Ali, and indirectly basketball star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Next thing it goes into are his origins. So let me just read a little bit about Fard's origins. And again, I think this is important since he is kind of the heart, the center. The fifth element is centered around Fard Muhammad. So let's give him some attention. It says Fard's origins are uncertain, as Fard variously identified as white, black, Spanish, Arab, Afghani, and on one occasion Jewish. Scholar John Andrew Morrow describes Fard as a racial and ethnic chameleon, noting Farad lived in one of the most vicious, racist societies in the world, America. The conditions in which Black people and indigenous people lived here were horrific. Segregation was severe, bigotry abounded, white supremacy permeated everything. Lynches were a daily occurrence. There were columns in the newspaper titled "Today's Lynchings." Wow. Fard witnessed unspeakable horrors committed by genuine devils. Why would Master Fard pass for white? Who wouldn't? So I guess there was a lot of criticism for him passing for white, saying he was white, black, he passed for Spanish, Arab, Afghani. And, I guess this guy is excusing that and saying that, he was hiding who he was to kind of, I guess, bypass whatever was happening at that time. It goes on to say many scholars argue that Fard may have had been from the Indian subcontinent. On his World War I draft card, Fard identified as a citizen of Afghanistan, born in Shanghai. Fard reportedly spent time in the Ahmadiyya Mosque, a movement prominent in Pakistan. Used translations of the Quran from Pakistanis and bestowed Pakistani names on followers. Fard's teaching of the tribe of Shabazz may have been tied to Pakistan's shrine of Lal Shabazz Kalanda. Some speculate Fard was a Turk or a Greek. He had been known as Fred the Greek or Fred the Turk in 1908. Some claim Fard was a white man, perhaps from New Zealand. Fard indicated that background in records from 1920. In 1924, when he married a woman from Spanish ancestry, Fard claimed he had been born in Madrid, Spain. I will say though, I just don't think he's an African American. He doesn't look African American. He's Middle Eastern or something. Do I want to say he's white? He could be. He looks like a white man. He's more white than black. So even in this respect, we see that the fifth element goes back to a white man. At best, he's a Middle Easterner. So, hip hop's fifth element goes back to not a black man. These are not teachings of black people or of Africa. Islam is definitely not an African religion. And it says here that he was specifically into the Ahmadiyya mosque. Let's just read a little bit about what that was. That may tell us a little something more about who he is. Ahmadiyya, officially the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, is an Islamic messianic movement originating in British India in the late 19th century. It was founded by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who said he had been divinely appointed as both the promised Mahdi, or the guided one, and Messiah, expected by Muslims to appear towards the end times and bring about by peaceful means the final triumph of Islam, as well as to embody in this capacity the expected eschatological figure of other major religious traditions. So he was the same way Fard was everybody. He was white, black, everybody. This guy, the Mahdi, is every religious prophet ever. He embodied them all. Ahmadi thought emphasizes the belief that Islam is the final dispensation for humanity as revealed to Muhammad, and the necessity of restoring it to its true intent and pristine form, which had been lost through the centuries. Its adherents consider Ahmad to have disappeared as the Mahdi, bearing the qualities of Jesus in accordance with their reading of spiritual prophecies, revitalize Islam and set in motion its moral system that would bring about lasting peace. They believe that upon divine guidance, he purged Islam of foreign accretions and belief and practice by championing what is, in their views, Islam's original precepts as practiced by Muhammad and the early Muslim communities. Ahmadis thus view themselves as leading propagation and renaissance of Islam. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that's who Fard Muhammad was. And what's even more fair to say is that he was not a black man, so. And the fact that the entire fifth element is tied around him, the whole fifth element of hip hop is tied around Wallace Fard Muhammad and his teachings, which is the teachings of Islam. It's the teachings of Islam is what the fifth element boils down to, from the 5% nations, to Malcolm, to NOI, it's all around Fard Muhammad. So, in that respect, it doesn't get more pseudo than that. It really does not get more pseudo than that. And it doesn't get more not black than that. The religion of Islam is not a black religion. It's not an African religion. It's an Arabic religion. If the fifth element itself, knowledge, is not from a black culture, how did y'all really create hip hop? So far, we don't really see much of what's coming from black culture, other than remixing and scratching. Because that's all the NOI is, remixing and scratching Islam. That's what 5% Nation is, remixing and scratching Islam. But you're not really creating anything new, But it's all Islam, and it's not African stuff. It's not black people's stuff. The hippity hoppers, they all should have stayed in junior high school, man. The hippity hoppers should have stayed in school rather than cutting school to go to the mosque. I mean, because it seems like that's what was happening. That seems like what was going on. And they left beautiful teachers in junior high school. They left their good teachers in high school, Miss Campbell and Mr. Chickowitz, all to go hang out with some pseudos and learn pseudo knowledge, you know? And I think that this is where the disrespect for traditional learning, or what we consider right learning, you know, learning, reading, writing, arithmetic, learning the sciences, that type of stuff, learning about physics and chemistry and civics, you know, civics, like stuff like that, learning to be good citizens. That's not what is promoted in hip hop culture. Hip hop culture is an anti-American culture. Like, it doesn't value what America values. Hip hop culture is an anti-American culture. From the gangs, from drugs, all of that is the sexual promiscuity. All of those things are anti-American values, you know, and they're being pushed on by a foreign religion into Black neighborhoods and kind of, you know, spoiling the brains and minds of the youth. Yeah, so it looks like the creators of hip hop are European, meaning, you know what I mean, the disco culture. And the teachers of hip hop are Arabic, the Islam stuff. You know, that's all. That's what we've learned before, so far. Who your creators are and who your teachers are. Disco culture, white people culture, and Islamic culture, Arabic people culture. But it's not Black so far. I don't see where it's Black so far. So what's today's mathematics, Shun? I'm not sure if I had it right, but I do know that the math teachers ain't Black. So neither is the fifth element. You're Shun. I may not know what the mathematics is, but I know that the math teachers y'all had, Rod in them, they ain't Black. So again, neither is your fifth element. So what did Black Americans create? You know, it's crazy that, you know, white people, this is the last thing I want to say. You know, the N-word is the most widely used word in hip hop culture, and in American culture as a result of that. You know, but it's a hip hop word. You know, only people in the hip hop culture uses that word like that. You got to be hip hop for that. And white people created hip hop, but they can't use that word. Ain't that something? They created hip hop and they can't use the most widely used word in hip hop. That ain't right, man. They should be able to. No. I mean, if Fat Joe can use it, come on. They created hip hop. No. Okay. I digress. We'll do another show with that stuff. But next show we're gonna do another show soon. You know, we've spoken about you know, the teachers of hip hop and the creators of hip hop. We're gonna go back to, you know, the creators and see who else was involved with creating hip hop. You know, and see where that takes us down this pesky rabbit hole. Yeah, man. So that's about it for today. Please, you know, please hit the like button. You know you like what you heard. Hit the like button and hit subscribe. You know, you get and the notifications. You get notified for when I go live. You get notified when when the new video is being premiered. You wanna watch it with me live. We can talk about it together. So subscribe and be notified. And join the Discord. Join the server, man. We out here. You know. We can kick it. We can kick it in the server. Join me on X. I'm the American Dream Guy. All right, at American Dream Guy on X. We're there. Me and Elon hanging out. And then the Cash App, man. You know what I mean? American Dream is alive. The Cash App, it works. And teamwork makes the dream work. You heard? All right, folks. Once again, thank y'all for coming through. It's a blessing. And we'll get it on the next one. All right, peoples. Be good.
So in my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too. Recognize royalty. Recognize it. Recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel. Recognize royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize royalty. Royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. I can love. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just a man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. Never just a man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand? From the texture of the hand, hard at work. Are you hard at work, working with the man? Don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. I can see. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I can see. I see it. I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world. I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we popped on things till we stop the impurity. We popped them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat. Cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening. In the mix, I'm in some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back off me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too. I can feel you. I feel it. I can see. I can see it. I recognize now. It's your royalty. I see it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Royalty.
Hey, peace, everyone. Thanks for being here. One idea, lid.
Recognize royalty. Recognize it. Recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel. Recognize royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize royalty. Royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. I can love. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize it. Royalty. I recognize passion. Never diss the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never diss the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work? Working with the man, don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. As gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the kings overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings when you recognize royalty. I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty.
Yeah. So once again, peace. Welcome to part 5 of our saga. Part 4, we did the mathematics, son. And we said the creators of hip hop are white, and the teachers of hip hop are Arabs. So that's kind of where we are in our quest to find out who is the creator of hip hop. At all turns we're finding out that it's there are very non-black influences going on, and a lot of remixing and a lot of cutting and scratching. The music, hip hop music is cutting and scratching of music that already existed. It's just cutting and scratching disco music, and rapping over it, and dancing to it, and that's hip hop culture. The same with the teachings. The teachings is just cutting and scratching Islam and creating NOI, and cutting and scratching some more and creating the 5% nation, the gods and earths. So that's where we are. Creators are white, teachers are Arab. We want Arab money. We want Arab teachers. That's what's up. And we want Arab teachers from the Messianic groups, which is what Fard Muhammad was a part of. Fard Muhammad was one of those, Messianic types who, believed that the black man was the original man. He actually believed in the Mahdi. Y'all can kind of look it up or watch the last videos. It's all in there. The Mahdi, who is the Messiah. And that he's going to return to come and save the black man and all that. But the idea drawn is that the black man is the original man, and we created civilization, which makes sense, or at least helps to explain why black people take claim to creating everything. We created the Egyptian civilization. We created the Moorish civilization, the Moorish civilization that conquered Europe. We're native to America. We're the Abos. Anything great, that's us. And now even America, we created America. We're foundational Black Americans, So I'm wondering if just that whole idea of wanting to take credit for everything is kind of in our subconscious psyche somewhere, which is just residue from, our teachings that we are the original man and the creators of civilization. Create civilization. Why couldn't we create everything? Or at least take credit for it. um, yeah, but knowledge, we also said knowledge as the fifth element, um, even more importantly, is un-American. It's a separatist hate for white people. The white man is the devil ideology. That's what the knowledge element is all about. And it's also about drugs and sex and gang activity. Um, or maybe not the knowledge element, but hip hop in and of itself is gang, sex, and drug activity. And all of those things are un-American. That's the main idea, is that, hip hop is an un-American culture. The creators are white, the teachers are Arab. It's an un-American system and an un-American culture. But today we're kind of gonna go back and look a little bit more on the creators of hip hop. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more and kind of see where it takes us. Yeah. All right. So here we go. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take a little hippity hop to the candy shop. That's our next move in our adventures. And what that means is we're going to take a look at the origin of the term hip hop. So, as usual, we're going to wiki. Let's see what we can see. So it says the origin of the phrase hip hop is unknown, but a very old example of the phrase appears in scene 2 of an anonymously written satirical play from 1671 called The Rehearsal, thought to be written by George Villiers, second Duke of Buckingham, and others. Wow. Imagine that. Imagine that. The very phrase hip hop goes back to the Duke of Buckingham. Isn't that special? Yeah, man. That's so lovely. So yeah, the phrase itself goes back to a play written by the Duke. A character in the play named Bays says, "I is not I gadha." Or to go off hip hop on this occasion is 1,000 times better than any conclusion in the world I got. This play, that was pretty good. I give myself kind of like a 8.72 out of like a 8.76. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. This play and 2 other later sources are mentioned as an entry, hip hop, in a multi-volume dictionary from 1901 called A New English Dictionary on Historical Principles. This is in that plays from 1671. From 1671, from the Buckingham Palace. And it was written, it's written in an entry in 1901. And the definition is hip hop, or a reduplication of hop with alternation of lighter and heavier vowel, like drip drop, tip top, with hopping movement with successive hops. A similar phrase, hippity hop of unknown origin, goes at least back to the 1800s and appears in a poem, Spring Weather, written by Elizabeth Cummings, published in an 1882 children's magazine called Wide Awake. Look at that, hippity hoppers. Y'all go all the way back. back. That's 19th century. That's 17th century. Wow. Y'all been hippity hopping for a long time. That's, yeah. Um, but yeah, a similar phrase, hippity hop, of unknown origin, goes back to the 1800s and appears in a poem, Spring Weather, written by Elizabeth Cummings, published in an 1882 children's magazine called Wide Awake. The illustrated poem begins, hippity hop to the candy shop, four little men in a row. And the phrase appears a few more times. Hippity hop to the candy shop, four little men in a row. The hopping depicted in the illustration seems to cross over later to describing dances such as the Lindy hop. So hippity hop, the hopping depicted in the illustration, hippity hop is now describes dances such as the Lindy hop. Oh no, it's just the hop part that describes dances. The hop is the dancing. The hop is the dancing. OMG. And what's the hip? Let's see. So the hopping depicted in the illustration seems to cross over later to describing dances such as the Lindy hop, or that happened later. Yeah, okay, which began in Harlem in the late 1920s. Later dance parties in the 1970s with DJs predated rap music, but rap music would evolve out of them. Later dance parties in the 1970s with DJs predated rap music, but rap music would evolve out of them. That's that disco we was talking about. In an article in Medium, Jeff Chang writes, Father Amde Hamilton of the influential rap precursors, the Watts Prophets, told me that when he was growing up along Central Avenue in 1950s Los Angeles, the older folks used to call teen house parties them old hippity hops. them old hippity hops is what the old folks would call the disco parties. That right? Yeah. Hippity hops. The earliest known instance of hip hop as a compound phrase in a song lyric is in a song about dancing by the doo-wop group. Is a song about dancing by the doo-wop group, the Dovels, in 1963 called "You Can't Sit Down." The lyric is, "You gotta slop, bop, flip flop, hip hop, never stop." Keith. Bars. Keith Cowboy, rapper with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, who is sometimes credited with the term as it relates to hip hop as we know it today, although it was not documented. Who? Keith Cowboy? Keith Cowboy is credited with what? No, it's not no Keith Cowboy. It's this lady up here. It's the hippity hop lady. Hippity hop to the candy shop, four little men in a row. Those bars already. Like, and that's it. That's what is that? 1671? No, that's 1890 something, 1870. And we want to talk about who? What's his name? Grandmaster Flash? No. Keith Cowboy? No. I mean, I'm going to say no to that, buddy. I think it's before your time. You know, the whole hippity hop thing with the, disco, that's just natural. That just seems more logical. But anyway, let's read. It says, Lovebug Starsky, Keith Cowboy, and DJ Hollywood used the term when the music was still known as disco rap. Yeah, they were using the term when it was known as disco rap because there was some old folks calling it hippity hop. Hello. It is believed by some that Cowboy created the term while teasing a friend who had just joined the U.S. Army by singing the words hip hop in a way that mimicked the rhythmic cadence of soldiers marching. Psh, no, I like the other one, but I like the hippity hop story. Um, Cowboy later worked hip hop into a part of his stage performance, saying something along the lines of what was adopted by other artists such as the Sugar Hill Gang in 1979 in one of the earliest rap records, Rapper's Delight. Cowboy later worked hip hop into a part of his stage performance, saying something along the lines of what was adopted by such artists as the Sugar Hill Gang in 1979 in one of the earliest rap records, Rapper's Delight. I said a hip hop, hibbity hip hop, yeah, and you don't stop. Yes, I was very bad, but it was a bar. Universal Zulu Nation founder and music artist Afrika Bambaataa is credited with first using the term as a five-element culture of which the music belonged, although it is also suggested that it was sometimes used as a derogatory term. Um, yeah, by them old folks, hippity, they was calling y'all hippity hoppers. Come on, my word. My word, them old folks was tired of y'all. You got to be kidding me. So it was used as a derogatory term. Makes perfect sense. Hip hop music in the early 1980s was an anti-drug and anti-violence social movement led by Afrika Bambaataa and the Universal Zulu Nation. Yeah, it was them gangsters, the gangsters, they start wars and then turn around and start anti-violence movements, start violence, then anti-violence. And that's what they do. That's the gang way. The term was used in an article of February 24th, 1979 by reporter Robert Flipping Jr. in the New Pittsburgh Courier. The article is about DJs and discotheque nightclubs in Pittsburgh and does not mention rap music, but says this. DJ Starsky, or Lovebug Starsky, one of the more prominent bass disc jockeys, he is also responsible for the derivation of the hip hop. Lovebug Starsky is also credited for the term by Afrika Bambaataa in January 1982. Interview by Michael Holman in East Village Eye. Holman stating, hip hop, the all-inclusive tag for the rapping, breaking, graffiti writing, crew, fashion wearing, street subculture. The term gained further currency in September of that year in another Bambaataa interview in The Village Voice by Stephen Hager, later author of a 1984 history of hip-hop. Yeah, it's them. Hip-hop and rap music are often used interchangeably, but the term hip-hop has also been historically used to describe a culture of which music is a part. Historically, hip-hop is a cultural movement that emerged in the South Bronx in New York City during the 1970s, which included emceeing or rapping, graffiti art or aerosol art, breakdancing, DJing, and knowledge. Yeah, all of this is so inspiring. Yeah. This is, the rabbit hole has been very, hold on, I'm not even going to say that. Yeah, man, this has been very revealing. So, the term disco is white, the term hip hop is white. The hippity hoppers, the old folks calling them like that is just so natural to me. It makes sense to me. It's hippity hop is old white folks, you know what I mean, just being annoyed with the young white folks with their loud music, that damn disco. Don't you see it? Damn it, you hippity hoppers. That's what hip hop is. Yeah, you know. So hippity hop to the candy shop, 4 little men in a row. You know? I mean, it's a bar. You know, I can hear it now. Hippity hop to the candy shop, 4 little N-words in a row. This is hip hop. This just feels right to me. This just feels right to me. You know, I think this is like a very exciting ride and glance through the corridors of hip hop history. This is awesome. Can't wait to see where we go next. You know what I mean? So, you know, so far it's all white people. Black people are there cutting and scratching. We cutting and scratching, you know, and we're cutting and scratching white people stuff. We're just remixing white people stuff. You know, in a court of law, they can claim it. In a court of law, they can claim it. I'm telling you. And if in a court of law they can claim it, in a court of law they should be able to claim the use of the N-word. I'm kidding. Or am I? Man alive. Listen, you know the routine. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Hit notification. A lot's gonna happen. Join the Discord. American Dream is alive. You know, I'm on X. American Dream Guy. And you know, Cash App. Teamwork makes the dream work. So, you know, if you want the dream to work, it takes teamwork. Hit the Cash App. American Dream is alive. That's the hashtag. American Dream is alive. Let's do this. Peace and blessings. We out. See y'all on the next one.
Recognize royalty. Recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel. Recognize royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize royalty. Royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. I can love. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just a man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. Never just a man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand? From the texture of the hand, hard at work. Are you hard at work, working with the man? It's the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the eyes that prizes no sins. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. recognize royalty. Sunrise royally, sitting on top of the world, I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop dumb things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I tell you why they rocked the boat, cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix of some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back above me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too.
I can feel you.
I feel it.
I can see you.
I can see it.
Now
I recognize now.
Royal to these eyes.
Your royalty.
I can see you.
I see it.
I can love again.
And I'm in love now.
Now I recognize
your passion.
Royalty.
Royalty.